Apex 42 hung above the blue-white moon like a cathedral built by someone who had never believed in quiet. Cargo haulers drifted in lazy spirals toward the docking rings. Comm relays flickered with overworked signals, and metal groaned with the weight of 1,000 daily routines. It was a place of motion without movement. Everyone arrived, everyone left, and yet nothing truly changed. Except today, apparently. Ethan Cole's survey craft shuddered as the docking clamps latched on, far too aggressively for a station that claimed its systems were functioning within ideal parameters. He smirked at the familiar voice crackling through his comm. "Surveyor Cole, your approach vector was inefficient by 17%. Please refrain from improvisational piloting." Only one person on this station could weaponize the word please. He stepped out of his ship and into the logistics hub, where Officer Lyrin Val'Sorei stood like an exclamation point carved from marble and disciplined irritation. Tall, silver-eyed, long-eared, and somehow more precise than the machinery she commanded, she didn't even look up as he approached. Her fingers danced through holographic manifests with mechanical elegance. "You deviated from the green corridor again," she said. "Good to see you too, Lyrin." She blinked once, which for her species counted as an emotional outburst. The deviation was unnecessary. "Sometimes I like to keep the station on its toes." "The station does not have toes." He grinned, figure of speech. Figures should be accurate. Their banter always started like this. Light friction, no sparks. Just the slow grind of two people orbiting each other without admitting that the gravitational pull existed. Ethan leaned against her console, watching the shifting data forms mirror across her pale skin. "You brought nebula readings?" she asked without turning. Beautiful stuff." Beauty is an imprecise metric. "Not if you've seen what I've seen." For the first time today, her eyes met his. Silver, reflective, calibrated to track motion with predatory clarity, yet beneath all that calculation, a quiet hunger, not for him. For somewhere she had never been, he lowered his voice. "You've never left a station, have you?" Her ears tilted back, the slightest defensive posture. "My position requires stability. Logistics demands consistency. Exploration is not my function." That wasn't an answer. I answered sufficiently. "Not really." She exhaled through her nose, a micro-expression, but for Lyrin it was basically shouting. "I have not left a station, no." Ethan softened. He didn't know why he cared, but he did. Maybe because every time he spoke about drifting dust clouds or star births, she listened with the kind of stillness that suggested she was building entire universes in her head. "Do you want to?" he asked quietly. Her hands froze above the holographic display. "Wanting is a variable not included in duty parameters," she said. "That's not what I asked." A warning chime interrupted them. Cargo waiting, schedules needing scolding, Lyrin returning to her fortress of measured control. Her posture tightened, her voice smoothed. "Your berth is assigned. 48 hours. Avoid unnecessary risk." "When do I ever take unnecessary risks?" She gave him a long, expressionless stare. "Okay," he admitted, point taken. He turned to leave, but her voice followed him. Not loud, but sharp enough to hook between his ribs. "Surveyor Cole." He paused. "Your nebula recordings," she said, eyes flicking away. "If you require assistance analyzing them, my shift ends at 22:00. Ethan suppressed a smile, barely sure. "I'll require lots of assistance." "That is statistically unlikely." "It could happen. If so, I will be in Logistics Annex 3. He walked out with Ethan arrived early to Annex 3, mostly because he told himself he wasn't excited, which was usually a sign he very much was. Logistics annexes were supposed to look identical: white panels, holographic grids, the faint hum of balanced power conduits. But this room felt different simply because she was in it. Lyrin stood at the central console, posture straight as a laser alignment tool, long ears angled toward the doors the moment he entered. Not turning to look, just knowing. Her species detected footstep vibrations more sensitively than motion sensors. "You are early," she said. "You're welcome." "That is not gratitude. You're welcome anyway." Her ears twitched, not annoyance, not amusement, something in between. She gestured toward the auxiliary holoprojector. "Load your recordings." Ethan inserted the data rod. The room dimmed automatically as swirling violet light expanded into a 3-meter projection of drifting nebular gas. Filaments twisted like cosmic silk. Charged particles sparked with internal lightning. A newborn star pulsed at the center like a heartbeat forming from dust. Lyrin froze, not in coldness, but in awe so profound it shut down her usual precision. Her eyes widened, silver irises reflecting the stellar glow. She stepped closer without meaning to, as if drawn by gravity. This, her voice faltered, a rare occurrence. This is active photonic formation. The density gradients, Ethan, you flew through this region. Near it, he corrected. Flying through would have gotten me dissolved into molecular poetry. I do not understand why you speak so casually about mortal danger. It's a coping mechanism. That is a poor mechanism. It works. She didn't reply. She was already studying the projection with the same intensity she applied to cargo manifests, but this time it wasn't obligation, it was hunger. The kind of hunger a person feels after getting their first breath of fresh air in a lifetime of recycled oxygen. I have processed millions of transit logs, she said softly. I know the drift patterns of every vessel in this quadrant. I've calculated the gravitational influence of dozens of anomalies. But this, she reached out, fingers trembling slightly as the projection light passed through her hand. This is the first time I have seen the thing my work supports. You've earned more than second-hand stars, Ethan murmured. Her eyes flicked to him, something raw exposed beneath the surface. My function is here. That's not what I said. She looked away quickly, as if the honesty in his voice was too bright. To break the tension, or perhaps to prolong it, Ethan magnified the image, isolating a cluster of particles spiraling into a nascent light bloom. See that curve? He said. That's magnetic compression. You can't get this from raw data. Cameras pick up the shimmer. It is beautiful, she admitted hesitantly. Then almost an apology, your word, but correct. He smiled. She did not. But her ears angled upward, Lyrin's version of a smile trying to escape but failing due to bureaucracy. A sudden vibration rattled the floor, subtle but unmistakable. Lyrin stiffened instantly. That was a deviation in rotational balance. Docking arm D, she said before the alarms confirmed it. A red warning flashed across the entire console. Pressure fracture detected section D14. That's not good, Ethan muttered. Lyrin's response was already halfway through the emergency protocol. A pressure seal has ruptured. A cargo vessel must have impacted the guide rail. If the tier expands. Vacuum cascade, Ethan finished. Where? She enlarged the schematic. Here. Ethan swore under his breath. That corridor connects directly to the auxiliary reactor conduits. Reactor safety is optimal, she said automatically. That's what every station says before something explodes. That is illogical. That is experience. She shot him a glare, but there was fear beneath it. Without waiting for permission, Ethan grabbed a pressure suit from the emergency wall locker. You need help. I am capable of executing protocol alone. Yeah, well, protocol doesn't crawl into collapsing infrastructure with a patch kit. That is not. I'm going, he said, sealing his helmet. You can yell at me later. Her jaw tightened. I do not yell. You will. Another tremor shook the room, stronger this time. Lyrin grabbed a second suit and stepped toward him. No, Ethan said. Stay in the control room. She paused, offended. I am fully trained for vacuum hazard intervention. I know, but the station needs someone who can actually make sense of all those warning lights. Her eyes narrowed. You assume I am too valuable to risk. You are. Silver eyes widened. Not romantically, but in stunned confusion, as if no one had ever told her she was anything but functional. I will coordinate from here, she said quietly. Good. He ran toward the fracture zone, suit mag boots clanking on the trembling metal. Behind him, Lyrin's voice filled his calm but layered with something he'd never heard before, fear, tightly compressed into professionalism. Surveyor Cole, proceed 30 meters ahead. There is structural thinning. Do not step left. The plating is compromised. I like when you worry about me, he teased. I am not worrying, she said too fast. Sure. The closer he got, the worse the damage looked. A 5-meter tier had ripped through the corridor wall, temporary force fields flickering under the strain. If they failed, the corridor would be... The fractured corridor looked like something halfway swallowed by the void. Metal ribs bent outward from the tier, shimmering under flickering containment fields. Beyond them, nothing, pure black vacuum, cold enough to freeze a thought. Ethan felt the temperature drop even through the suit's insulation. Surveyor Cole, Lyrin's voice filtered through his calm but thinner than usual. You must stabilize the pressure gradient before attempting a manual seal. The field deteriorates every 12 seconds. You're doing great with the reassuring commentary, he muttered. I am not attempting reassurance. I'm attempting to prevent your immediate death. Effective either way. He reached the rupture point, magnetic boots clamping hard against trembling floor plates. The portable patch module unfolded from his suit's wrist, a segmented polymer mesh designed to harden when exposed to vacuum. Usually easy enough to deploy if the wall wasn't vibrating like an angry animal. Lyrin, what caused this? Ethan asked. Initial readings indicate a cargo vessel misaligned during docking. Pilot error. Accidental then. A pause. Not entirely. The vessel's trajectory logs do not match station guidance signals. You're telling me someone rammed your station on purpose. It is one possibility. And the other, that the station's guidance system was spoofed. So sabotage. That is a statistically shallow conclusion. But possible. Yes. He exhaled slowly. Great, I love when things escalate. A stronger tremor shook the corridor. The containment field flickered violently, pixelating in the air like a dying hologram. Lyrin, talk to me. Field stability is at 31%, she said. You must deploy the mesh immediately. I'm trying, but the metal's so warped the anchor points won't hold. Adjust angle 12 degrees clockwise, she instructed. Compensate for curvature distortion. He tried, the mesh hooked, then slipped off again. No, she corrected sharply. You're other clockwise. Humans have two inconsistent uses of that term. I'll put that in the user manual. Another tremor, the force field WHINED elongating like stretched glass. Ethan, hurry. The fear in her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It slid under his ribs, hit something unprotected. Okay, he whispered. I've got it. He repositioned the mesh, bracing his boots against the floor, aligning the anchor nodes at precisely the tilt she described. A second tremor knocked him sideways. He slammed against the bulkhead, breath punching from his lungs, suit alarms chirping. Ethan. This time she wasn't calm. I'm fine, he choked. You are not. Emotionally or physically. Both. He laughed despite himself. Focus, Lyrin. Her breathing was audible, tight, strained. Anchor the final node. The structural clamps will engage automatically. He pressed the last node into place. The system hesitated, beeping, scanning, evaluating structural resistance, then locked with a sound like a giant inhaling. The mesh expanded, forming a luminous lattice. The containment field steadied, pressure readings normalized. The corridor stopped shaking. Ethan sagged against the wall with relief, patches holding. Silence on the comm. Lyrin. Nothing, then very quietly. You are clear of the hazard. Return immediately. Her tone was controlled again, but the control wobbled. Hey, he said softly. I'm okay. You could have, her words tangled. Please return now. He started back. The lights flickered as the system rerouted power to compensate for the emergency. As he neared the hatch, her voice came through again, but different. Lower, as if she'd switched channels to speak only to him. You should not take actions that risk your life for this station. Pretty sure all your engineers sign up for that. You are not station personnel. You told me that last week too. Didn't stop me then either. A small, frustrated sound escaped her, barely audible but unmistakable. You are impossible. And yet you tolerate me. I do not tolerate you, she said. Then what do you do? A long pause, seconds stretched. I have not determined the correct terminology, she admitted at last. He didn't push further. She didn't hide behind protocol. She simply didn't have the vocabulary yet. That was more vulnerable than any confession would have been. He emerged into the safer ring, stepping out of the damaged segment. Lyrin was already there, helmetless, breath tight, uniform immaculate except for trembling fingers she kept pressed behind her back. She looked at him once, just once. But it was enough. Her silver eyes scanned his suit, lingering on every scrape, every scorch. You are uninjured, she asked. Mostly. Her ears angled sharply downward. Define mostly. A little bruised, mild ego damage. That is not amusing. He opened his visor. I wasn't joking. She stepped closer, inspecting the cracked panel on his forearm, her expression flickering between irritation and relief. This should not have been your task. You are a surveyor, not emergency response. Stations aren't my job either, he said, but people are. She blinked slowly this time. People. You, he clarified. Her breath caught so sharply it almost sounded like a glitch. Before she could respond, the control hub was a storm of movement when they arrived. Engineers shouting updates. Analysts rerouting power, status screens flickering as systems recalibrated after the rupture. Yet the moment Lyrin stepped through the doors, the chaos aligned itself like metal shavings around a magnet. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't gesture dramatically. She simply existed with such razor-edged purpose that the room shifted into order around her. "Status," she demanded, stepping to her console. A junior officer nearly tripped over his own boots trying to stand straighter. "Reactor stability at 93%. Structural field recalibrated. We've isolated the guidance signal anomaly that caused the vessel impact." "Cause?" Lyrin asked. "Unknown. The signal was masked. Could be external interference. Could be internal tampering." Lyrin's posture stiffened, not fear, not anger, but something colder, calculation. "Begin a full system audit," she ordered. "Trace every unauthorized packet. I want the source identified." The officer nodded vigorously and hurried away. Ethan leaned in slightly. "So sabotage is on the table." She didn't look at him. "I cannot confirm that. But you think so. My thoughts are irrelevant to protocol. Your thoughts are relevant to me." Her hands froze on the holographic interface, only for a breath, but Ethan saw it. "Please do not say things like that while I am attempting to maintain operational discipline," she whispered sharply. "Then stop doing things that make me say them." She shot him a look that might have disintegrated lesser beings. He smiled anyway. A ping signaled a completed diagnostic. Lyrin read it, her expression tightening. The compromised signal originated from within the station. "Internal sabotage," Ethan said under his breath. "Yes. Why target the docking arm? Unsure, perhaps to cause structural failure, perhaps to kill someone." Her eyes flicked to him. "Perhaps to kill you." Ethan blinked. "That's a dramatic escalation. You are a variable. You arrive unpredictably. You gather data from regions few dare enter." Her voice lowered. "Some may see you as a threat." He was about to respond when the main holoscreen shifted, displaying a slow-motion playback of the cargo vessel's approach. Even at reduced speed, Ethan could see the moment the ship veered sharply off its correct path, drifting into the beam that tore the corridor open. But something bothered him. "Pause that," he said. Lyrin did. "Zoom on the starboard thrusters." A window expanded, pixel clarity sharpening. Ethan pointed. "There. Microburst ignition, too small to adjust trajectory intentionally, but enough to nudge a course." Lyrin analyzed quickly. Not malfunction, not natural drift, an external override. Ethan's jaw tightened. Someone nudged that ship deliberately. "Yes, to hit the station. Yes, to create chaos. Yes." He looked at her. "Chaotic enough to distract you." Her brows drew together. "Why would anyone desire my distraction?" "Maybe because your efficiency prevents a lot of bad things from happening." Her ears angled down in something like disbelief. "You attribute too much influence to me." "I don't think I do." Again, that tiny flicker, something soft beneath armor she didn't realize she wore. A new alert interrupted the moment. Officer Rennell approached with a data pad, sweating nervously. "Administrator Joreth is requesting your presence in Central Command. Immediate review of the incident." Lyrin nodded. "I will attend." But Rennell hesitated. He also said the human should remain on standby. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Not allowed in the big room." Lyrin's jaw flexed. "You are not station personnel. They will not permit you entry." "Yeah, I figured." She turned to him, lowering her voice. "Do not leave this hub. If sabotage is occurring, you may still be in danger." He smirked. "That sounds almost like you care." "That sounds like I am issuing a safety directive." "Sure it does." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't deny it this time. She left the hub long coat trailing behind her like a dark comet tail, and Ethan suddenly realized how the room dimmed when she wasn't in it. He tried not to think about that. He failed. Time passed in uneasy fragments. Ethan paced. He double-checked his suit. He replayed the sabotage footage in his mind, analyzing every glint, every pixel, anything that could hint at motive. But his thoughts drifted back to her. The way her voice trembled earlier, barely audible under layers of discipline. The way she said his name like it was a security breach she wasn't prepared for. The way her ears betrayed her even when her face stayed composed. He'd met dozens of alien cultures in his career, none like hers, none like her. The hub doors opened. Lyrin returned, but something was wrong, very wrong. Her steps were too controlled, her expression too blank, her posture too rigid. "Lyrin." She stopped in front of him, silver eyes unreadable. "Administrator Joreth has issued a directive." Ethan folded his arms. Yeah, what kind? A prohibition. On what? On you. Ethan blinked. What? You are to leave Apex 42 within the next cycle. Her voice was flat, dangerously so. Your presence is deemed an operational instability. Ethan stared. Operational instability, I just saved your station. That is not under dispute. Then what is? She didn't answer. Lyrin, he said quietly, look at me. She did, and in that moment, all her practiced calm cracked like thin metal under strain. He said you are distracting, she admitted, each word seeming to cost her something. He said I am deviating from expected behavioral patterns when you are present. Ethan cursed under his breath. Because you were worried about me. The words hung between them with the weight of a malfunctioning gravity generator. I do not want you to leave. Ethan had expected resistance, denial, maybe another attempt to bury the moment under regulations. But not this. Not a confession spoken like something fragile escaping before she could lock it behind protocol again. He stepped closer, not touching her, just closing the gap enough that she had to acknowledge him as a person, not a variable. Lyrin, he said softly, then tell Jorith no. Her expression tightened as if he'd suggested she leap out an airlock. I cannot. His authority supersedes mine. Then override it. That is impossible. Since when do you accept impossible? Her ears angled sharply downward, irritation or panic, he couldn't tell. You do not understand station governance. Administrator Jorith controls personnel assignment, access levels, and disciplinary actions. His assessment of my instability can result in temporary suspension. Ethan frowned. Suspension from what? My duties, my post, my life, she said, voice hollowing around the edges. Everything that gives my existence structure. He softened. Your life is bigger than a job. To you, perhaps, she replied. You move through the universe without boundaries. You change course whenever you choose. For me, boundaries are the structure. Without them, there is nothing. Ethan exhaled. Lyrin, you're not a system, you're a person. That is debatable. No, it is. But she turned away, clasping her trembling hands behind her back as if to hide the tremor from herself. I am experiencing behavioral deviation. Jorith is correct to intervene. That's not deviation, Ethan said. That's emotion. That is worse. Why? Because emotion is unpredictable. It threatens efficiency. It clouds judgment. She swallowed, voice faint. I do not know how to accommodate it. He circled to face her again. Then learn with me. Silver eyes flicked up, startled, searching, disbelieving. You speak as if learning is simple. It is, but wanting to learn is. Her breath hitched, and for a long moment she said nothing. A calm alert shattered the silence. Lyrin stiffened, tapping her wrist console. Administrator Jorith is requesting immediate status confirmation. Ethan groaned. Of course he is. He expects you to depart before next cycle, she said quietly. If I do not send confirmation, he will come here in person. What happens if he sees me still on board? He may escalate disciplinary measures. Against me. Against me, she swallowed. Ethan, you must go. No, a simple word, but it knocked the breath from her. No, she repeated, as if she'd never heard someone refuse a direct directive in her life. No, he repeated. Not until we understand what's happening here. I understand perfectly, she insisted, but her voice was cracking. You are disrupting my function. Good, she reeled, good. Yeah, because maybe your function needed disrupting. Her hands curled into fists. Do not say such things. You do not know what you are asking me to jeopardize. I'm not asking you to jeopardize anything. I'm asking you to live. I am living. No, you're maintaining. That's different. Something inside her wavered. He saw it, the flicker of yearning, the echo of nebula light still clinging to her memory. He stepped back, giving her space. Lyrin, when you saw the star clouds, you looked alive. More alive than you did in any corridor, any shift, any data pad. I'm not saying abandon your station. I'm saying stop pretending this is all you are. Her throat worked. If I admit that, then I must also admit that my life until now has been insufficient. It hasn't been insufficient, Ethan said gently, just incomplete. Another tremor, not from the station this time, but from her. The truth destabilized her more than structural collapse. She pressed a hand to her chest as if trying to steady something inside. Ethan, I do not know how to reconcile these variables. It's okay not to know. No, she whispered. Uncertainty is failure. Not if it leads somewhere better. I cannot reorganize my life around a human. Who said you had to? You did. No, he corrected. I said learn with me, not for me. She froze again, processing, reassessing. She was a machine learning algorithm built into the body of a person who didn't yet realize she had a choice. Finally, she whispered, what happens if I do not send Jorith confirmation? Then he comes here, Ethan said, and we deal with him. He could strip my access. Then we adapt. He could terminate my station residency. Then we relocate. She stared, stunned. You speak as if leaving this place is trivial. For you, yeah, it would be terrifying. For me, it would be Tuesday. Her lips parted, not quite a smile, not quite disbelief, something unnamed. But we can figure it out, he finished, together. A long, heavy silence. Then, I am afraid. I know. I have never been afraid before. I know. What do I do? He stepped close again, close enough that she felt his presence grounding her, but not close enough to touch. You choose, he said. Her eyes fluttered shut as if the word physically struck her. Choice was not a luxury she'd ever been offered. Not as a child raised on stations. Not as an officer bound to a role. Not as a person believed to exist for efficiency. She looked at him again, something new forming behind her eyes. Not obedience, not panic. Possibility. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she lifted her wrist console and disabled the outgoing status line. Then she whispered, Administrator Jorith arrived exactly 14 minutes later, early enough to demonstrate authority, late enough to imply he had more important places to be. He entered the logistics hub with 2 security officers in tow, each wearing expressionless visors polished to a bureaucratic shine. Jorith himself was tall, sharp-shouldered, and carved out of the kind of arrogance that believed efficiency equaled virtue. Officer Val'Sorei, he said, voice stiff. I have received no departure confirmation regarding the human. Lyrin stood at her console, straight, still, perfect except for her hands clasped behind her as if holding herself together. That is correct, she said, Jorith's eyes narrowed. Then explain. Ethan almost spoke, but she glanced at him once, just once, and he understood. This was her reckoning, not his intervention. She faced her superior fully. I am not authorizing his departure. A quiet gasp rippled from nearby junior officers. No one defied Jorith, certainly not she, the embodiment of protocol. Jorith folded his hands. Repeat that. Lyrin's ears angled upward, not defensively, not anxiously. Steadily, I am not authorizing his departure, she repeated. You are compromised, Jorith said flatly. Your emotional state is interfering with your responsibilities. My emotional state, she said, exists. Jorith blinked as if she'd declared gravity optional. I have logged no deviations in my duties, Lyrin continued. All station functions under my purview remain above required thresholds. Efficiency remains stable. Productivity remains stable. The only perceived deviation is that I am no longer pretending I do not experience internal variables. Internal variables, Jorith echoed, baffled. Yes, she lifted her chin. Thoughts, preferences, curiosities, and occasionally fear. The room stilled. I witnessed your behavior during the rupture, Jorith said sharply. You abandoned procedure when the human was in danger. No, she corrected. I adapted procedure to incorporate a new priority. Which was? Her gaze flicked to Ethan, not romantically, but with clarity sharp enough to cut metal. Life, she said. His life. Ethan felt the words hit him like a pressure wave. Jorith sputtered. You do not possess the authority to assign priority beyond operational protocols. Then protocols are insufficient, Lyrin said softly. Chaos rippled through the room again, this time because of her. She who never broke rules now fractured them like brittle glass. Jorith stepped closer, looming. Officer Val'Sorei, you are to be relieved of your duties pending psychological recalibration. The words struck her like physical blows. Ethan instinctively moved forward, but she raised a hand, stopping him. No, she said firmly. No, Jorith repeated, incredulous. I will not submit to recalibration, she said. There is nothing malfunctioning within me. You are biased, you are unstable. I am aware, she said, for the first time in my life. Jorith's jaw clenched, security. But the 2 guards hesitated. They had watched the rupture incident. They had seen her stabilize half the station, coordinate life-saving responses, maintain logic under pressure. They looked at each other, not mutinous but uncertain. Lyrin took a slow breath, and when she spoke again, her voice had shifted into something Ethan had never heard before. Authority, not borrowed from rank, but claimed from identity. Administrator Jorath, she said. Apex 42 functions because the people within it function. Efficiency is not obedience, stability is not silence, and emotional suppression is not strength. The room listened, Ethan listened. She continued, if my awareness of my own internal variables is grounds for dismissal, then you are dismissing half the station. Because they too feel fear, curiosity, hope, attachment. They simply hide it better. Jorath's face twisted. This sentimentality is unacceptable. This sentience, she corrected, is inarguable. Another tremor, this one not structural but human. Someone lightly applauded, quickly silenced. But it had happened. Jorath flushed with indignation. You leave me no choice. He reached for her badge. Ethan moved, but Lyrin lifted her chin. Touch me, she said, and half of Apex 42 will demand an inquiry. You overestimate your value. Do I? Lyrin asked quietly. Observe. She turned, scanning the room, every engineer, every analyst, every technician, all watching her, all standing a little straighter, all saying with their silence, we follow her. Jorath's hand froze. Lyrin spoke again, calm as starlight. I am requesting reassignment. Jorath blinked. Reassignment to what post? She looked at Ethan, and for the first time the truth behind her eyes didn't frighten her. To a mobile position, she said. Off-station, field liaison, diplomacy support for interstellar survey routes. Ethan's breath caught. Jorath sputtered. That is. Fully within personnel rights under subsection 19, she said. I have 203 unused leave cycles. They are legally convertible toward transitional placement, and I have already completed the application. When, 14 minutes ago, Jorath paled before I arrived. Yes. You, he pointed at Ethan, grasping for control. This human has influenced you beyond. No, she said. He has not reprogrammed me. He has merely revealed that I was already something more than a function. Jorath, defeated, glared between them. Very well, your reassignment will be processed, but understand, once you leave Apex 42, you will not return. Lyrin nodded. Then I will not return. Jorath stormed out. The doors shut, silence. Then Ethan exhaled the breath he'd been holding since she first said no. You really did it, he whispered. She looked at him, not uncertain now, not afraid, changed. I chose, she said simply. And now? Ethan asked, her ears lifted slightly, a subtle gesture of anticipation. Now I must do something I have never done. What's that? Step outside the life I was given. He smiled. I can help with that. She approached him slowly, steadily, and for the first time she initiated the space between them. Not touching, just standing close enough that he